once you have a really great background, let's say you're a registered nurse, you're working in, you're working in ER or you're a charge nurse, any kind of RN, the great thing about clinical research is once you have clinical research plus RN, what can you do? Lauren Lena Chang, what does that mean?
Yeah, my first question, whether you're an RN or not, I would ask this to anyone thinking about clinical research is, do you want to be patient-facing or do you want to be behind the scenes? If you want to be patient-facing, if you have that nursing degree, an ideal position is going to be that clinical research nurse. You're interacting with participants, sometimes their families, depending on your therapeutic area. Um, you are collecting data, you're running those protocols, you're at the research site, you're working with the physicians, which we call PIs or principal investigators in this field. You're working with those dynamic study teams. Depending on where you work, you might wear a lot of hats or you might just wear one or two hats, depending on how departmentalized it is. Now, for someone who's not an RN and you want to be patient facing, you're probably looking at either a research assistant or a clinical research coordinator role, depending on your background. And again, you're working with participants. This is great. This is a great entry position. I really strongly encourage anyone trying to transition in this field, start in one of these coordinator roles. This is truly where the rubber meets the road, where the data is collected, where you really gain that intense understanding of a clinical trial. I'm sure many people joining tonight have aspirations of leadership. Maybe you want to be a director, a VP someday, whatever you want to be. You're going to be a much better leader if you start from the ground up and you understand what you're asking of your teams. And maybe it's your indirect team, but that's really what it comes down to, are those coordinators running those trials. Now, sometimes I understand people, maybe you're burnt out from COVID, maybe you just don't want to be patient facing, whatever it is. There's still so many other directions to go. Regulatory is a great and growing field. I say growing because we're getting more and more regulations every single day because this is an evolving field. And so that's a great area where you can grow your entire career. In fact, one of our instructors is the global head of regulatory for a major pharmaceutical company. And she started actually as a coordinator and grew into that, which is pretty incredible. For some of you out there, you may like data management, another great field where you could, take it to retirement. Some people love compliance. Maybe someone out there wants to be an FDA auditor. There's so many different directions that you can go. I know some of you I've seen in the chat are foreign medical doctors. If your goal is to take your STEP exams, match into residency, become that boarded physician in the United States, perhaps you could go on to be a sub-I, a PI, and really lead those trials. And then beyond that, you can still grow. I know one of the PIs that I used to work very closely with, he's now a senior medical director at a major pharmaceutical company. So even as a physician, that clinical side isn't necessarily a terminal place to be. You can still grow your career well beyond. So I know you started asking about nurses and I kind of went off on a tangent, but for anyone, no matter your background, you can really grow in this field. Now, I will say there's one caveat on that. We talked a little bit about education earlier. Now, I've certainly seen people get into the field with an associate's, particularly if they have a medical assisting type background. Our field has really trended, particularly over the past 5-10 years, to requiring at least a bachelor's to move up into many of these positions. I see a lot of people want to be CRAs. Most CRA positions these days are requiring a bachelor's or higher. So I just, want to let people know about that. But then at the same time, there's plenty of companies that are starting what we're seeing non-degree programs. I'll let you know those positions are pretty limited at this point in time. But hey, don't let that stop you. If you see those positions, go after them. And those are the types of people that we're networking with because we do have students with those types of backgrounds.